Now it's official. So this was the first night that I had a camera I had just bought. It's around Christmas time. It's adjacent to Military Park in Newark. And from here, I can see the angle you were talking about, House. Just slightly tilted, thank you. This is on Park Place, like I said, across the street from Military Park. And I was just trying this camera out for the first time at night. I had this engagement in Newark. I said, let's bring the camera. And this was one of the shots that I got. It was aesthetically pleasing to me. And I'm very familiar with this block because I worked on this block for about 10 years. And so the only processing that I did was just to lighten the street and then enhance the street, bring that out just a little bit more. But I thought it was a nice looking shot, and that you had the leading lines, you had the big building, the lights. It just kind of caught my eye.
It's an interesting street shot. And what I had said earlier, it's leaning a little bit, which you need to level off. And I would say that you probably don't need all of the crosswalk that you have there. I like the way that you put the Prudential building off center and in the top part of the thirds, which makes it a more interesting image. The other thing with a night shot like that, it's probably advisable to use a tripod.
Yeah, this was handheld.
Yeah.
This was a handheld shot.
Because you'll get a little bit of blurring around the lights. Does anybody online have any comments?
Please.
Okay.
Thank you. So this was a couple of years ago at Quailbrook Golf Club. Every now and then I'll bring my camera out on the course with me and do video or stills of other people shooting or their swings. And this was a friend of mine coming out of the bunker on the par 5, 6th hole. And if I had forwarded 2 frames, you would have seen a nice or a bigger splash of sand, but by then the ball was out of frame. And if the ball's not there, to me, I'm not telling the story. And so it was a perfect out. Ball came out, hit behind it, the sand splashes it out. You see his head's behind the ball, and it was good form, and it was just, to me, a good shot.
Did you fire a hole?
No, it was a bogey.
Okay. It's a great sports shot. Capturing, you not only captured the motion, you captured the sand, you captured the ball. It tells a story. And when you're doing street photography, that's what you want to do. You want to be able to tell a story. And I'm someone who doesn't avoid street photography at all costs. And a couple of weeks ago, I ended up judging street photography. And I got some hints about it, that you don't judge street photography the same way that you would anything else. The first thing that you look at with street photography is, what is the story? And that's what makes this image so good, because there's no question what the story is with this image. You know darn well that his ball ended up in the sand trap. And you also know that from his stance and the way the trajectory of the ball, that he's getting out of it pretty nicely. The other comment that I'll make is that the background is handled really nicely because it doesn't distract at all from what's happening with the player. The only nitpicky thing that I'm gonna say is you might want to tone down the white on that hat.
Okay, that's fair.
Because it distracts a little bit from the action below. One of the things with an image is that the first place that somebody's eye is drawn is the brightest portion of the image. And that hat is the brightest portion.
Mhm. It's even brighter against the dark background and the dark shirt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's easy enough just to tone down the
you can
white.
mask it, yeah.
But I think you were right. You needed this shot because you see the ball.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, if I advanced it 2 frames, you would see the swing and a
Yeah.
big splash of sand. I mean, the sand came literally up over his shoulder,
But you'd lose the
but you
story.
wouldn't have the ball.
Right.
Yeah, you'd
Yeah.
lose the story. This tells the whole story. And that's apparently the essence of street photography.
Okay.
Do we have any comments from anybody online?
No golfer's never been in the bunker, huh?
Nellie, go.
Oh, no, Charlene, hi. I was just thinking that maybe if you could lighten the actual shirt on him, his whole figure seems so dark.
Mhm.
Just like if you put a mask just on his body and just lighten the shirt just a little bit, because you can't, from here, I can't really see his face either. You know, it just looks, you just see the white hat, really. But that's just, you know, my thought, just a little bit later on the shirt.
That's a good suggestion.
Mhm.
Okay, what's the next one?
Leaves are coming. It's just basically a group of buds on a branch of a tree, letting you know, the leaves are coming. This is a park down the street from my house. And it's interesting that, you know, I was doing some comparative stuff. I have other pictures in that park, maybe 3 weeks later time-wise, where there's more of a bloom. But this was on, I want to say it was on March the 1st. And I realized it was really early, but I wanted the buds. I actually did it on a few trees, but I like this one because I like the background of blue sky and the clouds.
Okay. I like the 3 branches that are your subject. What you've got to watch is the background, because the background is busy. I don't know if you moved to the right or the left, you could get more of just plain sky behind your subject branches or not.
At that time of the day, I had to be on that side to
Side.
get the light on it. Otherwise, because I toyed with several, but I said, I can't see the bud. It's just like a little dark spot, you know.
Okay, and that's one of the things that you've got to think about, especially when you're out doing landscape, is time of day, where the sun is coming from, etc. And I mean, it's a good image of saying spring is actually getting here. But for a competition, the judge would ding you on the background.
Mhm. That's fair.
Anybody online?
Ellen, I'm looking at that and in the center, there's a very interesting bud.
Yeah,
And you have,
that's
and
the
then you-
one that Bill wanted to
That's the subject.
subject.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if you really crop it, either cutting off the edge on the right or even cropping just the three in the middle, if that would be a more dramatic picture.
Yeah, that could work.
I gave it some of that thought as opposed to just the light highlights that center bud. It brings it out. And I was trying to get as many as I possibly could in that frame. That's why you have one there and
Yeah.
one to the right of it. But I understand exactly, yeah. Well, I could have just made that one bud the
Yeah,
soul of the picture.
yeah, that might have worked.
Or even just take the bud, but keep the one on the top and the bottom. And, you know,
And it would have toned the background down, that's for sure.
Yeah.
mhm.
Next.
So, title of the photo is what's back there. And you see the little girl, and she's just like, is it catching us? You know, I don't know what her thought was. I was doing leading lines pictures of an intersection when I took this picture. And when I get home and I blow it up big, and it's like, wow, her eyes really get your attention. And I really cropped this picture down because it was a wider shot of the intersection, and this woman and this little girl just happened to walk right into the frame. And when I was looking, I saw looking back, like, is it back there? Is it coming to get us? And that's what grabbed my attention about this picture.
I think that you have a little more than is necessary on the right-hand side.
Mhm.
I would crop that in and get rid of that window. One of the things that you want to try not to do is cut off writing. Because what happens when you cut off writing is people viewing the image will try to not look at your image
Yeah, what does it say?
and try to figure out what it says.
And let me let you know the thought process on that. It was kind of like a bird photo when you want to leave. And, you know, I cropped it once, but now as I look at it again, without losing the effect of her really
Yeah, you
looking
still have
back,
plenty
I
of
could
room.
have cropped more.
Yeah. Any comments online? Okay, Charlene?
Find my unmute button here. Okay, so this is my it's my signs of spring photo, but it's sort of like a fake news. Because there was snow and I happened to have a bouquet and being allergic to flowers, I can't keep them in the house all that long without being kind of, miserable. So I stuck some in the bush and took their picture because they still looked decent. And that's my sign of spring. I don't think there's much processing that goes into something like this. Maybe just cropped it in more to get rid of some of the snow.
No, I think you're cropped in fine. There's, you were able to not blow out the snow and capture some detail in the snow and nice detail in the flowers. I'm not seeing, the only thing that I'm seeing is I would have liked to have seen, I think, in the upper right-hand corner, some more snow instead of whatever,
The holly bush.
yeah, okay. That's the only thing. Otherwise, I think it's an interesting picture. I think it gets some conversation of hopeful spring.
Hmm.
Anybody else have any comments?
Excellent stage.
Yeah.
So this, I guess this would be under my street photography. And Ellen, you're probably familiar with this shot, but this is the year we were there. There was a lot of people, and this has like nobody. This is this past Christmas on I think it's Stone Street, right?
Yeah, it is.
And there was like nobody there. It was kind of eerie. But the year before it was we went. It was that Santa,
Oh,
what
yeah.
call that. So there was a lot of people out. But this was what is I don't know if that was a Sunday night. It just seemed like really off for Christmas time. And so I, you know, I mean, I definitely had to lighten it and, you know, do some dodging and burning, maybe, I don't know. But that's about it. But I try to get down, do maybe like a leading line, like really focusing on the cobblestones and try to get down a little bit lower, but not low to get that effect.
I think you handled it really, really well.
Thank
Um,
you.
Between the leading line from the street and then the little fairy lights that go diagonal, they form the diagonals into a leading line, and your sidewalk, it flows really nicely. Um, the lights were handled well. I'm guessing that you had a tripod.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, and you can see the difference in when you use a tripod at night as opposed to not.
Mhm.
And sometimes you can get away with it if you put your ISO up high enough, but most times you do need a tripod. And for anybody that doesn't know, Stone Street is one of the oldest streets in New York City. It dates back before the Revolutionary War, so over 250 years ago. And it's downtown, almost at the bottom of Manhattan. And sorry, I'm a walking tour guide.
Industry was.
Okay, so my grandson, this is actually my grandson in the green wrestling. And I've been taking photos of he's wrestles for Ridge High School in Basking Ridge, and I've been like their photographer for the last 3 years. Actually, this was my third and last year, really. And when they did, sometimes they only put a spotlight on them. Like they'll turn all the other lights off. I don't use a flash. So there's a definite problem with coloring and, you know, etc. But anyway, so with what I think what I did here was I probably uh, darkened I don't know. I don't know what I did. I think I darkened the background a little bit, like where the people were. This might not be this one might not. I would have to know what night that was, but maybe it's not just the one light because there seems to be a lot of light. But I kind of like this processing I did. They almost look like fake, like comic, like I don't know. It just has a different look to it, the color or something. But yeah, I had fun trying out different techniques and doing the wrestling.
Well, you've gotten good at capturing the action, and uh, needless to say, this tells a great story.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the way you captured the ref uh, looking on at the action. I think that just adds to the story.
Yeah. Yeah, so now that I'm looking at it, I can tell this because of the lighting, there was more of a yellow tone to it. Because if
Yeah.
you look at the the lion or the tiger or whatever, home of the tigers, you see on the screen there, on the background, their table, it almost looks brown. So I kind of took a lot of the yellow out of the whole picture and darkened it too, so it wasn't so that it wasn't taking away from the actual wrestlers. And I think that's it for me.
Um, I've liked some of the black and whites that you've put up with the wrestling.
Right, yeah.
Um,
I actually had a couple of pictures in the Bernardsville paper they posted of
oh,
one of
cool.
the last things. I thought that was cool.
So,
One of the mothers sent them. She asked me if it was okay to send them. I said, yeah, just give me photo credit, that's all. And they did just this past week, I think they actually published them.
so I've got to ask, how did they do in the States?
They had 5 boys going in and we didn't, well, I mean, they played well, but we didn't place any more. Like my grandson went, they all wound up into wrestlebacks and he went like 4 rounds and lost that round. And the other boy was like 3 rounds and 2 or whatever. So he went further than the others, but not far enough. Not far enough to place. But I'll tell you, they got 32 wrestlers in each one of the weight classes, and it's tough. I mean, those kids are brutal trying to win. It's like, I don't like it. It wouldn't be me, let me tell you. It's hard.
Um, I have a political friend that her son did really well.
In this states this year,
Yeah, yeah.
what was their name?
Um, I can't. Oh gosh,
What school does he go? Oh, you wouldn't know.
I don't know what school.
That's all right. It doesn't matter.
All I know is he's got a full ride to Drexel,
Oh, that's nice.
Drexel D1.
Uh-huh. Very
That's
nice.
that's all I can tell you.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Um, okay, let's go on.
Okay.
You're gonna have to speak up, so,
Go.
or change,
Why?
watch my wire. Okay,
So this is a building that's in Prague. I walked by it twice and I kept trying to figure out a way to take a picture of it. It was really kind of cool. It almost reminded me of framework of a boat in some ways, like, you know, with the scooping up. I really had a hard time with it though. First time we were there, my camera battery, and I think it's my real camera, died. So then I tried with the cell phone and then I hoped that we would go by it before we left. And I don't remember if this was the first time or the second time I went by it, but I did do some cropping. I did take out the street and I tried hard to keep it so it's level, but it's kind of, I think it is. But now I'm looking here, it's hard. I think it's also, there's an angle to the actual building. And I think it's also the perspective. It probably was with the cell phone.
think if you straightened out the building, you would lose some of the movement that you see in
Right,
the
right.
image right
Yeah,
now. Because it almost looks like they're with the gold on the bottom, that flames are overtaking the building.
yeah, it actually was kind of a cool building, and I chopped off a good portion in that right corner, because it just didn't work. It was too busy.
I keep wondering if you cropped it right up to the bottom of the gold part, if it would work better or
I wasn't
not.
sure, I wasn't sure.
I'm
if
not
that was gonna work.
sure.
That's one of those hard things. It may never show up again,
Um,
but it was
the
fun.
building's really interesting.
Yeah, and I had to take out wires. And stuff, but that's. about it.
That's one of the things that anybody who does architecture, street photography, any of that, you can't help but fall into that. I really like the movement.
I was just gonna say, there's a lot of movement,
Yeah. Um,
but I may not have harnessed it.
and which makes it an interesting image, because normally a building is static,
This is not.
and this building has all this movement in it. Pretty cool architecture.
Yeah.
Like, any comments from online? Okay, go on.
Oh, I did a series of movement. I took a class on I think it's PSA. It was an online class, and it was movement. And this was when I was first trying to do panning. And in some ways it failed. In a lot of ways, it's kind of fun at the same time. So, you know, there is wires in here. I didn't take the wires out.
That's fine. I would have liked to have just seen a little more of the background blur in order to get the feeling that the Jeep is moving more.
Oh, it's not blurred enough?
No.
Okay.
When you're doing something like this, you want to get as much blur as possible in your
Yeah,
background,
I had.
because the more blur, it adds to the speed of whatever you're photographing.
I did another group of them at Echo Lake, but I had used that one before, so I didn't bring it up.
And I know we've had some of Al Brown's planes where you can see the plane, and then the trees and the runway are totally blurred, that you can just about make out what they are. And then you get the feeling of that the plane is speeding down the runway.
The hardest thing I've known trying that over the years is people stop panning when they click the button. You gotta click as you just keep going.
Well,
Some people get I've had the habit of just click,
I did a whole bunch of them, and this was in the beginning. There was one that I had of 3 geese flying, but it was very hard. It's kind of like it's not a clear picture, but it is a clear picture. The geese were clear, but the background was all blurry, but it was very busy. So I did a lot of work with it. I haven't done anything with it lately.
2 years ago at Christmas time, we stood on the street behind St. Patrick's Cathedral and did motion blurs with the taxis coming by. And it was a challenge to get one shot that you really like between the blur in the background and the movement of the vehicle. 50 shots maybe. did a lot of those. So it's a challenge, but it's a fun challenge. And maybe we'll put it in next year for a competition. It could,
Sometimes I will go look for a place that looks good when it's blurred in the background. Get the vehicles going by.
Right.
It looks good when you pan in the background. That's a good-
well, you could always pan your background and
I
dump
do-
in a vehicle. Cheat a little bit.
It's funny, I put these pictures in and I can't even remember today which ones I put in. So this is in Vienna, and what I kind of liked about it was I liked the fact that the gal was taking the picture, and of course the lights are kind of bright. The sky, it wasn't. I don't know what time this was, so it probably was around 7, 8 o'clock in April. And but I actually am not happy with it because I wanted it to be narrower, and I couldn't get it to work no matter what I did. And I think this one, I can't remember where I took this one, which device I used on this one. If it has a frame on it, it's definitely, I did the processing on this one on the iPad from Lightroom. So anyway, it's a little, I don't think it's
Okay.
as clear as I want it to be.
Okay, on this one, I think that you probably have a little more sky and foreground than you really need in the image. I like that you have the person because it serves as an anchor, and it also gives context to the size of the building. So maybe you could even crop just in more on all sides.
Well, I wanted the right pointer to be this way. I don't know, for some reason I would do it and it kept going back. Why? And I just said, oh, heck with it. I'm done. But see, like, this is something I wouldn't put in competition necessarily. It's much brighter on the screen than it is on the computer.
Okay, what there it is. I don't know. Is that showing up on the,
Not there. I see it.
darn. Oh, yeah, it is showing up.
Oh, it comes, it's delayed.
I'm saying, think about cropping in this way, maybe a little more over here. Oh, this is interesting. That way, and then you still have the person giving context to the size of the building, but you're focused more in on the building, and I think the negative space surrounding just isn't necessary.
No, I agree.
And I think that could make a nice image, and then toning down a little bit of the bright spots within the building itself. But it's a good image. With a little work, I think it could be really nice. Now, how do I get? Go
There's an
ahead.
X, what's the X?
No,
do?
this one. There it goes.
Well, this one, probably the background would be a little bit darker maybe, but anyway, this is in Sydney and I was walking the streets and it seems like people fly to Sydney to get wedding pictures and then they go back home. And I saw several couples, most of them were Asian. And it just caught my attention and I was just having fun. A lot of times I mean, I've seen this in London. I've seen this in various different places and I'll stop. I'm not planning to take the picture. I just snap it. Not always successful. This one I did burn out some extra light bulbs. But it's not sharp enough. It's what is sharper here.
Yeah, it's sharper on my screen than it is,
Yeah, it's very
up
muted.
there.
It's very muted on the screen.
yeah, the picture is muted. It's still muted here. Lot of background. I mean, it's interesting for street photography.
Well, that's what it was intended for.
Yeah, one of the things that you really want to avoid is things growing out of people's heads.
Right, I did take out some poles. I have two poles now, right? Like,
You got the
I
pole
I
and
see
the
the
light
second
on
one.
top of it.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
I could take out more.
Um,
I could take out.
But this, I mean, this is back again to, it wouldn't pass muster for technical issues, but it does tell an interesting story. And that's one of the things that it's street photography is all about. So okay,
Thank you.
The ones on the.
on the, okay. So we got a few more that are on,
Don't think James.
he's not here. But we'll look at them anyway. Okay, so this, James put in, he actually sent me a few images over the weekend, I think it was. Now, one of the things that my first comment about this image is going to be, there's a weird halo around the tower. I see it here on my computer and we can see it a little even more pronounced on the screen. I don't know, anybody have any ideas what he tried to do? It seems like part of the sky got darkened and around the tower it did not, which is something a judge is going to pick up immediately. I'm going to say I really like the detail in the tower itself. I think that came out nice. And I like the colors down below with the either sunrise or sunset. But whatever happened with the sky there, it's just funky. Okay. This is an interesting black and white. Uh, I mean, there's on the left-hand side, there's a whole bunch of interest in the leaves and or branches or whatever it is there. One of the biggest problems is the brightness of the whites and the black that's down in the right-hand lower corner. And there's not enough contrast in the image to make it an interesting black and white shot. Go ahead. This looks like images from last year when we did the long exposures with the hula hoops and the lights. I like how this one came out. It actually looks like the golden spiral turned upside down. So the placement works really nicely in the image. There's a lot of interest with the motion going around, and there's nice detail in the image. I think this works well as an abstract. And he probably shouldn't have put it in now and left it for our abstract competition in 2 weeks. Yeah, he still can. Yeah, that's true. The judge hasn't seen it, but I think that would be a good thing to do with this image. I think it works. Huh. Nice reflection. And this one looks to me like he definitely used a tripod in this image. There, while you can see the nice glow of the arches, you also have not lost details in the trees and in the reflection from the trees. So I think this one was handled well. My only suggestion on this one would be to crop a little bit of the sky off the top, just to bring it in a little bit more. But I think with the sunset here, it works very well.
Would it work better if you cropped it down so it's equal to the reflection? Or
No,
so you would want-
yeah, you don't, when you have a reflection, the one thing that you want to avoid doing is having your reflection and your object cut through the center of the image. You want to make sure with that reflection, you want to make sure that you have that you do the rule of thirds with it. Otherwise, it bisects the image into 2 separate images and just doesn't work.
Basically, same thing with the horizon.
Exactly. Same kind of concept. Don't put it in the middle.
Okay. Got 2 more left.
Okay. Well, tonight's going to be a short night.
First.
See if we get a reflection. Ooh. This was from last November, I believe. I was over in Brooklyn. We were doing a shoot and after we went to an Italian restaurant. So I didn't have a tripod with me, but I took a few of the bridge and whatever the thing, arena or whatever it is across the water there. I don't know what that is. But it was a nice night. And I figured, let me take a few night shots while I'm out here. If you're looking at the streak that's just underneath the bridge, that's one of those helicopters that the tourists fly around.
Turn yours off so I can turn mine back on. Okay, I think I really like the placement of the bridge in the image. By doing it on the diagonal, even though it cuts off some of the buildings, I think it adds interest to the image. I might lighten the bridge a touch so that I think you probably could bring back some detail in it. And you can even, looks like you can see some detail in the vehicles crossing the bridge. Maybe that looks like a subway. And you may be able to get a little bit of detail out of that. I like the way that you handle the buildings. They look nice and sharp, including whatever the building is on the waterfront down there.
I think it's a concert venue, I'm not sure. You could hear music from across the water.
Could that be South Street?
Yeah, that's around that area.
Yeah.
And I left the placement of the bridge that way because I was trying to make sure top of one world was there instead of the other. Felt that. And the other one is
Yeah, no, I think this worked pretty well. You got some nice detail in there.
this was Weehawk. The only thing I didn't like about it was the sky was very plain then. But it's across from the Weehawk and almost where the ferry terminal.
I'd cut down on some of the sky. You've got a lot of sky there.
This one was with a tripod.
Yeah. Yeah,
You need-
yeah. Those buildings are as sharp as could be. I like how the buildings, now what was this at sunset?
Yeah, about probably maybe half
Yeah.
hour.
Yeah, I really like how the buildings picked up
Give it a little bit of light left.
the glow. I think yeah, blue hour, that makes it so much more interesting than just another shot of New York City. And some of the buildings, at least to me, are easily identifiable and really nice and sharp. Yeah, I like also how you've got the reflections in the water. But the one thing, I cut down some of the sky up above.
Now, we had a little bit more interesting sky, would you better leave it that? If I had to say there's clouds up there, or just cut it off no matter what it was.
I don't know, even if you had clouds up there, if it would add to the image. I mean, the buildings with the glow on them are really interesting and really powerful. I think the possibility is that if you did have clouds up there, it would take away from the buildings. And the buildings came out great. I have with with some New York images that I've done with fireworks. Because I've wanted to get more reflection as the fireworks come up from the barges. But in this case,
It's probably an 8 to 10 second exposure. That's why we want
in this case, I would not. This one, I just wouldn't, your subject is so strong in this that I don't think I would do anything to take away from the impact. Anybody have any comments or suggestions? Yeah.
I don't know what that sign is. Well, that sign, I've got a whole bunch of these. That purple one, and it's blue, then it's red. It's, I don't know what it's advertising, but that, it's a changing sign. Yeah, I have a few.
You can enter also many different versions.
I actually did a couple portrait style, just to crop certain, like that whole left side, those buildings are so distinct. And a few like that also.
When did you take this one?
Probably the weekend that it was before we even were doing the scavenger hunt.
Okay.
Probably mid-February, we had it, was like 50 degrees for a couple of days.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I went out, I said, let me go see, and I got there early, because I knew on that side, you sometimes get that reflection of the
Yeah.
skies. I just, after I set up, to me, in my head, I went, even I should have went up more, so I got a little bit more of the statue, not the statue, the Empire State Building. But then I looked at it, I like that it's just peeking out, that it's just peeking out. But those buildings around Times Square with the lights on, just fantastic. And there's so many, I guess, this time of year, there's so many that hit the light. The angle of the building hits that sunset.
My suggestion is gonna be, the NJFCC pictorial. Put this one in.
Put it, take the sky up and make the walls and panorama.
Just take a little bit off the top of the sky.
In my habit, I always have a problem with, I like the picture, but I always keep the ratio the same. I unlock the ratio, cut it down to what it should look like. That's sometimes I don't do.
See, I rarely keep the ratio.
See, that's what I gotta break my habit at.
I think one of the advantages of having the picture on the screen, that you can do that, you don't have to worry about fitting it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
And for the NJFCC is the same as putting it into Photo Contest Pro, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
just
so I
the,
transfer pictures.
yeah, yeah, I don't have to check, yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah, no, put it in, let's see what happens. I think it's, think it could be,
Good.
we're good. Anybody have any comments online? Everybody's quiet tonight. Well, it looks like we've got a short meeting tonight. So our next meeting's, I think, on the 24th, and that's competition with the abstract. And Becky Witt, who's our judge, is very creative. So it should be a good competition. And with that, I'll say good night to everybody and thank you for everybody who participated.
Thank you.
Right.
Good night.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. You too.